So later this week, on Friday, February 12th of 2021, Super Mario 3D World Deluxe plus Bowser's Fury will finally be releasing on the Nintendo Switch. This is a pretty widely anticipated game because it's the first real big first-party game to release on the Switch in 2021. Of course, it comes with the caveat, or you could even say controversy, of being yet another Wii U port. What is this, like the 7th or the 8th Wii U port? I haven't done a tally count, but it's probably something like that, creeping up on 10 Wii U ports. Some people seem to love them, some people hate them, some people are in the middle, which is kind of where I rest. But of course, one of the most notable things about it, and one of the most exciting things, is the fact that it's more than just Super Mario 3D World from the Wii U, it's also Bowser's Fury, this new additional mode and map that they've added to this game to kind of help spice it up as a proposition for people who maybe played it on the Wii U who wouldn't otherwise be playing it. Of course, as many of you know, that does include myself. I still own and have played and completed Super Mario 3D World on the Nintendo Wii U, and I liked the game a lot. I didn't love it. It's not my favorite 3D Mario game. In fact, it's pretty low on my list of Mario games, but it is still a very good game. And so I don't really have many reasons to want to pick up 3D World Deluxe on the Switch, simply because I still own my copy on the Wii U, but Bowser's Fury does change things, and I've discussed that many times over the course of the past couple of weeks. So what I want to do in this video is kind of discuss what we know about Bowser's Fury so far, about the length and the amount of content and what it truly is, and if it really seems worth it to people like me who played the original game and who think Bowser's Fury would probably be the only thing that could possibly convince us to pick up and play this game again. Of course, before I dive into the topic, I do want to remind you that I'm always trying to grow the channel here, so as you watch this video, if you like what you see and you like what you hear and you seem to like what I'm doing, then hopefully you will consider subscribing to the channel to help me cross some more milestones very soon. So I think when we all think about Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, the one question we've all had about Bowser's Fury is just how long will it be? How much content is going to be in this Bowser's Fury sort of weird thing, right? And when they finally pulled the veil back a little bit and released a couple of trailers and some information about what Bowser's Fury is supposed to be, I will say, along with most of us, I think what the overall concept is and the execution of gameplay and the design of Bowser's Fury is very cool and very exciting, and I definitely want to play it purely from that perspective. But when it comes to spending another $60 on a game that many of us already own and have played and all these things I already said, that does change the game. So more than just looking cool and fun, it also has to be worth $59.99. Now, over the past few weeks, a lot of reviewers and YouTubers and different outlets have actually had the game and been able to start running through it, and so a lot of information about both 3D World and Bowser's Fury has started to get out there, and one of the big things was the length of the game, which has been confirmed to be 3 hours to complete, but 6 hours if you wanted to 100% find and collect and do everything within it. Which is, I don't know, in some ways maybe a little longer than our worst fears, but I don't think it's necessarily as long as a lot of us were looking for it to be. Here's a collection of details that has been rounded up from all of the various outlets with their time with the game. We see Bowser's Fury takes place in a large world similar in style to the kingdoms of Super Mario Odyssey. The world is divided into smaller subsections which can be traversed by riding Plessie. Each section has a number of catshines which are obtained by completing various objectives, some of them hidden. Bowser Jr. can be directed to pick up various power-ups. Bowser's Fury mode takes around 3 hours to complete and can go up to 6 hours for 100% completion. So very interesting stuff. I really appreciate having a couple of bullet points to lay out some of what the content looks like in Bowser's Fury so far. It's worth noting a few other things that we do know about it, such as the ability for Bowser Jr. to be controlled by a second player, or of course the overall context of the map that you play in Bowser's Fury, which is that there's a huge giant Mega Bowser in the middle of the map who wakes up every once in a while and turns into a fire-breathing menace and is trying to kill you for a couple of minutes before he gets tired and goes back to sleep. And also the overall objective of collecting all the cat shines to get the Super Mega Cat Bell to become Giga Mario Cat, where you basically will show down with Giant Bowser in one final massive blowout. That kind of stuff is very interesting, and I love the way the map and the world looks in Bowser's Fury. It's tricky because I'm somebody who doesn't love the Cat Mario thing. It's a little bit too cutesy, kid-like for me. Although, I will also say it is fun to control Cat Mario, so it kind of has that sort of that thing that's hard to reconcile in my brain. Whereas I liked playing as Cat Mario, but the overall vibe and approach to 3D World was a little too cutesy and kid-like for me to really, really fall in love with it just from that one perspective. And so having Bowser's Fury be so focused on playing only as Cat Mario is maybe not my favorite thing, but it does also seem like they designed the world very cleverly around Cat Mario's abilities. So that's where, again, it becomes about reconciling it just in my brain. I'm just one person talking about my own perspective and opinions here. It becomes tougher to reconcile in my brain exactly how I feel about that aspect. But then we go to the whole Mega Bowser thing in the middle of the map and everything that he's doing, and it's like, yeah, that's actually pretty cool, man. I think it looks like a lot of fun, and it makes me want to play it. But if we look at the 3 to 6 hours thing to beat and then complete Bowser's Fury, you know, going back to the original question that kind of kicked this whole video off here, is that enough to justify a purchase for somebody who's already played the game? Maybe you're somebody who's never played the game. Obviously, on the Wii U, most of its best games weren't played by a lot of people. And while 3D World sold a couple of million copies and was successful on that console, we know it's going to be way, way more successful on the Switch. There will be millions upon millions of new players who did not play that game. So maybe that's you, and so you're excited because everything about this game, from the 3D World stuff to the Bowser's Fury thing, is going to be new to you, and so you're just thinking, hey, I have this great new Mario game to play on my Switch. And that's fantastic. I'm actually jealous of you because I would love it if I hadn't played this game, so I could be more excited. But for those of us that have played it, the whatever 4, 5, 7 million, I don't know the sales numbers, but the millions of us who did play it on the Wii U, is it worth $60 for 3 to 6 hours of Bowser's Fury, even if it looks very fun? So this is where subjectivity comes into play, and so I can only talk subjectively about my own feelings that not all of you will share. For myself, man, it's hard to say it, but I think you guys that it doesn't quite feel like it's worth it to me. At the end of the day, as I brought up in a prior video, I would have been much more excited if instead of being 3D World plus this Bowser's Fury thing, if Bowser's Fury was releasing as its own game with just a bit more content. In fact, I'll go so far as to say, if Bowser's Fury released as its own game that was twice as long, 12 to maybe 15 hours to complete, that would make it shorter than most Mario games, but personally, I would be very excited and I would even be willing to pay full price for that game. So here we have a 6-hour version that's an addition to a game that many of us have already played, but what if instead it was only this new content, but it was 12 to 15 hours, only twice as long as it is now? Not an insane thing to ask for, I don't think, and obviously not everyone will agree that that would also be worth full price, but I would see it as worth full price. So again, I'm only talking as my own opinion. You don't have to agree with me. I'm not telling you to agree with me, but I am sharing with you how I feel. And to me, that would just be a lot more exciting because, again, the content, the map, the Bowser thing, it looks like a ton of fun. But 3 to 6 hours when it's coming with something else I already beat years ago, I don't know, it's just hard to get excited about that part of it. But I do want to play devil's advocate to myself for just a minute here with a couple of points that I do think sort of justify somebody who might be willing to pick it up for this reason. The main thing is, one of the main things I should say, is a very smart decision by Nintendo to make Bowser's Fury selectable from the main menu. That is a great, great decision because in so many instances, with games that get DLC or Game of the Year editions or remasters with additional content, sometimes it becomes hard to access that additional content or that DLC stuff that you paid for, and you have to do weird things or complete sections or beat a boss or even roll credits before you can do it or whatever the case. And to me, I'm just speaking as for myself, that always has kind of frustrated me. I think any DLC content, especially if it's something you pay for, you should be able to just access no matter what once it's yours. And so with Bowser's Fury, they do seem to be doing that. So I applaud them for the choice. You can pop this game in, and before you even play 3D World, you can go to Bowser's Fury. In fact, you could argue that someone could buy this just for Bowser's Fury and never even touch 3D World. I mean, that's an option. And so if somebody felt like 6 hours of Bowser's Fury was worth $59.99, then they could buy it and think of it as a Bowser's Fury game, not as a 3D World game. That's up to you. I don't feel comfortable doing it, but I do love knowing if I ever give in and pick this game up, or maybe I buy it at a discount price in 20 years when it drops in price, that I can actually skip the 3D World stuff and buy it knowing I can go right to Bowser's Fury. I do like that part. Also, something else that came up when I was on Andre's Restarts podcast last weekend is something that really sort of works against my own opinions here of not probably picking this game up. And I might be getting myself in trouble by bringing it up because it's going to seem like I'm contradicting myself, but what are you going to do? I'm a human being, I have organic opinions and thoughts, and this is just how I feel. But I do want to bring it up because it might also prove helpful maybe to some of you in helping you make your own buying decision. And so what it is that I'm talking about and what it is that I discussed and came up on that podcast is the fact that this game is, again, as we've said several times, 3 to 6 hours. So about 6 hours max to 100% complete this game. And yeah, that's pretty short. If that's the only content you're going into the game for, that's short for $60. However, I had a revelation, again, on that podcast where it's like, the Resident Evil 3 remake came out early last year in 2020. I played that game. I bought that game for full price at $59.99. Many people found that game way too short to enjoy or to be worth full price, which I understand. But for myself, I played that game in about 8.5 hours, probably a little bit longer than 8.5 hours. And that's not really very long. But when the game was done, I loved it so much, I didn't care. I was like, this felt like a fine, great experience. 8.5 hours, 8 minutes, or 8 hours, 40 minutes, whatever I took. I was like, this is fine. I really liked this game. It's very good. I'm not sad that I bought it for $60 because it was so good, even at 8.5 hours. And 8 hours is only 2 hours more than Bowser's Fury, right? According to these numbers of 3 to 6 hours. And so I kind of started to think a little bit, and I had to look inwardly about how I felt. It's like, gosh, if 8.5 hours was worth $60 to me because a game was so good, couldn't 6 hours be worth $60 to me if it's also coming with another game that I know is very fun? I mean, I don't know. It kind of got my brain thinking a little bit. So at the end of the day, what this revelation really taught me is that I'm not yet ready to buy this game on launch day this coming Friday. Even though I love Mario, I liked 3D World, I want to play Bowser's Fury, all these things. Huge Nintendo fan, of course. I'm still not ready to dive in on launch day, but what I am willing to do is to continue probably just thinking about it and looking inwardly with myself and hearing other people talk about it, maybe watching some videos and just seeing if maybe after a couple of weeks I convince myself, man, I just want to play this Bowser's Fury so much, screw it, I'll just buy the game for $60. I might give in and do that a couple of weeks or even a couple of days after launch, who knows. But what I can still say for sure is, despite those devil's advocate points that I made, I still think that, 6 hours for $60 in a game I already own on the Wii U, it doesn't feel justified right now. So I think by the time Friday comes, I'm going to not be picking this game up. But that's just for me. I know plenty of you guys are going to be picking this up. I know plenty of you are very excited for it, as you should be, especially if you haven't played 3D World, because like I said, just because I put 3D World pretty low on my list of Mario games doesn't mean it's a bad game, because it is not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. There is a ton of variety and fun and crazy weird gameplay mechanics and so many different worlds to go through. It's a very good, very fun Mario game. So if you haven't played it, you're going to really like it if you're a Mario fan or a Nintendo fan. And then on top of that, we've all got Bowser's Fury to play. So no matter what, if you pick this game up, we're all at least going to have a brand new Bowser's Fury. That's a couple of hours of extra content. That seems to be pretty neat. So those are some of my thoughts, and that's what I think about Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. Again, coming out this week, the first-party release on the Nintendo Switch in 2021. Yes, it's a last-gen port, which is a shame, but it's still pretty cool. It's still exciting. It's still Mario. It's a good game, and it has something that's new. No matter how short it is, it's got some new content. And that has to be seen as a good thing all around. Even if I'm not buying it day one, I still think it's pretty cool that it exists, and I know that a lot of people are going to buy it and play it and enjoy it. And I think this game is going to sell 10 million units minimum. This game is going to be a huge deal. So that's what's going on. That's my kind of breakdown on the value of Bowser's Fury at 3 to 6 hours. What do you guys think? Do you agree with my assessments and my opinions and thoughts here? Or are you maybe on the other side of the camp and you're really excited for it no matter what, whether you played 3D World or not? So whatever you think about it, definitely talk about it below. I will remind you again here at the end of the video, consider subscribing to the channel if you like what you saw and heard here today. I make several videos a week talking about Nintendo and Metroid and all things gaming. So with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.